Chapter 3 of Blood and Bone. By morning, the rain had passed, leaving the fields slick and quiet. Mist clung low to the earth, like a shroud. Kyle sat at the edge of the porch, with a wool blanket draped over his shoulders, Bible resting on his lap. He hadn't slept again. He didn't dare. The scratches on his arms were still there. He washed them, bandaged them, tried to explain them away. But deep down, he knew better. They were real, and they were a message. He was finishing his third cup of coffee when William Carter returned. Just as quietly as before, the old prophet walked with calm purpose. Not presuming, not hesitating. He simply waited until Kyle nodded for him to come up. Kyle poured him a cup without speaking. They sat in silence for a while. "You saw her again," William finally said. Kyle didn't answer. "She's not just a tormentor," the old man said. "She's a tether, a chain, one that links you to something far deeper than lust or nightmares." Kyle looked up sharply. "You talk like you've seen her." "I have," William said. "In visions, she goes by many names. But the oldest is Lilith, the whispering serpent, the destroyer of children, the bride of fallen things. She is not a demon in the way Hollywood imagines. She is the disembodied spirit of a pre-flood hybrid." Kyle stiffened. "Nephilim?" William nodded. "Spirits of the giants, the ones wiped out in a flood, their bodies destroyed, but their spirits unredeemed. The Book of Enoch says they became earthbound, forever cursed to wander, feed, corrupt." Kyle's throat tightened. "Why me?" William set down his cup and leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Because you're not just haunted, Kyle. You're related." Kyle laughed bitterly, rubbing the back of his neck. "I've always been big, strong, weird. That's not exactly divine proof." William pulled a small leather-bound notebook from his coat and flipped it open. "Your mother," he said, "died in childbirth. Your father vanished before you were born. But the name on your birth certificate, Parks, is not your father's real name. I found records. He was adopted after a fire in Ohio in 1976. His original family?" He turned the notebook. "Parakiel." Kyle stared at it. "That's an old Watcher name," William said. "One of the 200 who descended at Mount Hermon. One of Samyaz's lieutenants." The name struck Kyle like a thunderclap. Images rushed in. Ritual candles, carved stones, voices in languages he never learned but somehow understood. "I didn't know," he whispered. "Back then, I didn't know any of this." "But you called," William said, voice gentler now, "and they answered. Not just because you dabbled in black magic, but because your blood remembered them." Kyle stood abruptly, pacing. "I was 17, angry, searching, and they promised strength, knowledge. Said I was chosen." William looked at him calmly. "They didn't lie. You were chosen, but not by them." Kyle turned. "You expect me to believe God wants anything to do with me? After what I've done? I opened a gate. I let him out." "You opened a gate," William agreed. "But God sent me to tell you something." Kyle waited. William stood slowly and stepped forward. He placed a hand over Kyle's heart and looked into his eyes. "You are not the key, Kyle. You are the seal." A silence followed that felt like stillness before a battlefield breaks. Kyle looked away. "I don't even know what that means." William gave a small smile. You will. Then he pulled a folded parchment from his coat pocket, ancient, cracked at the edges, covered in Hebrew, Aramaic, and something else older still. I've only translated part of it, William said. It's a remnant from the Dead Sea Scrolls, unpublished. It speaks of a remnant of the Watcher's bloodline, not damned, but preserved, to bind what was once loosed. Kyle touched the paper. His hand trembled. The symbols moved faintly beneath his fingers, like something waking. I'm not a priest, he whispered. I'm a mistake. William nodded. So was Moses. So was Paul. So was every prophet who ran before they walked. He looked toward the mist-covered field. There's more to show you, Kyle, but first you have to be willing to remember. Kyle turned toward him slowly. You mean the ritual? William's voice dropped. Yes, the night you invoked Samyaza. Chapter 4, The Summoning. This is a flashback from 6 years ago. Kyle Parks was 18. The night he opened the door, he stood barefoot on the cold wooden floor of the old tobacco barn, shirtless, chalk and blood dried on his arms. A circle of salt and ashes surrounded him. Candles burned low in jars. The smell of iron, sweat, and burnt sage clung to the rafters like a curse. He had found the ritual deep in a digital pit of occult forums and obscure books. A Watcher summoning rite, they called it, mostly dismissed by people chasing thrills, but something about it called to him, like it was already inside him, waiting to be remembered. The name at the center of the rite pulsed in his thoughts like a drumbeat. Samyaza. He didn't understand all the symbols. Some had come to him in dreams. Others he had drawn with the ease of memory rather than study, as if they had always been his. He held the last item in his hands, a page torn from the 19th century French demonology manual, marked with an old tongue. He hadn't translated it. He hadn't needed to. When he spoke the name aloud, the barn went still. Samyaza, Ben Ha Elohim, Ani Korah Lekha, which translates to Samyaza, Son of God, I call to you. The flames of the candles rose, then dipped low. The shadows bent, and then the voice came. You call me, not because of knowledge, but because of blood. Kyle's body locked, his vision blurred, and the air pulsed with pressure, like thunder before it breaks. His heart pounded, but he felt no fear, only heat, hunger, purpose. You are not the first, but you are among the last. The ground beneath the circle cracked faintly. What the flood could not kill now answers through you. Then suddenly, all the sound vanished. A silence more terrifying than any scream filled the space. The candles blew out, and the door to something ancient opened. He didn't remember falling asleep, but suddenly he was lying in his bed back home. Except it wasn't home anymore. The colors were too vivid, the air too still, the moon too large and red outside the window. Then she came. Not through the door, not through the window. She was simply there, standing at the edge of his room like smoke taking form. She was tall, impossibly graceful, wearing only darkness and the illusion of modesty. Her hair fell in black waves past her waist. Her eyes were not human, deep wells of seduction and malice. And yet, Kyle couldn't look away. She stepped closer, each movement like silk over fire. You called him. she whispered. Her voice was musical, sweet, poisonous honey. I don't know what I did, Kyle said, voice dry, eyes locked to her shape. You reached for power, and the moment you reached, I felt it. She sat on the edge of his bed, her presence overwhelming the air, thick with heat and the scent of roses and something darker, like decay wrapped in perfume. She reached out and ran a finger across his chest. You're not ordinary, she murmured. Your blood sings. Kyle shuddered. He should have pulled away, but her touch was intoxicating, like something carved into his instincts, familiar and forbidden. She climbed beside him, slowly, her face just inches from his. Her breath chilled his neck, but his body responded with fire. He didn't understand what was happening, only that he didn't want her to stop. You're not just a boy, she whispered. You are the gate. And then she kissed him, not with affection, but claim, like a serpent winding into his lungs. The moment their mouths met, heat surged through his limbs, paralyzing reason. All of the lines blurred, pleasure and fear, seduction and violation, control and submission. He welcomed it. He wanted it. And in that moment, he gave in. He belonged to her. He woke up gasping. Back in the barn, the candles had burned out. The circle was smudged. His skin was cold, but his chest was damp with sweat or something else. His heartbeat raced, and his breath came in short, ragged bursts. Then he saw the marks, 3 long scratches across his ribs, shallow but real. They weren't from the ritual. They were from her. The dream had felt real, too real. A part of him wanted to fall asleep. For the next few weeks, Kyle told himself it was just a dream, a hallucination from the incense and adrenaline. But deep down, he knew the truth. Lilith had touched him, not just his body, but his soul. And every night after, she came again, sometimes whispering, sometimes pressing into his dreams with shadows and lips and lies. She made him powerful. She made him feel chosen. But in this darkness, Kyle believed her. He didn't know then what he'd opened, or that each visit was a link in a spiritual chain, binding his soul to forces far older than the world he knew. He only knew one thing. He liked it.